Welcome to today's lesson on CRS 001. We'll be looking at the documentary hypothesis overview, we're considering the early overview, the fragmentary overview, and the supplementary overview. But before that, let's look at what the documentary hypothesis is all about. The documentary hypothesis is a scholarly theory that proposes the Pentateuch, which comprises of the first 5 books of the Bible, that is, the book of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, was composed from multiple sources or documents. So now, these sources were likely written by different authors or groups of authors over a period of time and were later compiled and edited to form what we have now as the Pentateuch. Now, the theory identifies several key sources that contributed to the Pentateuch's composition. We have the Yahweh source, characterized by its use of the name Yahweh for God, and it's thought to have originated in the southern kingdom of Judah around the 10th or 9th century BC. And this source is notable because it uses vivid narrative style and focus on the early history of Israel. In contrast to that, we have the Eloi source, or we can say the Elohim source or the E source, which uses the name Elohim for God, and it's believed to have originated in the southern kingdom of Israel around 9th or 8th century BCE. Now, the Eloi source often presents alternative perspective on events and figures, providing a richer understanding of Israel's history. Thirdly, we have the Deuteronomy source, which is associated with the book of Deuteronomy, and is thought to have been written in the 7th century BC, possibly during the time of King Josiah, because it is believed that Hilkiah the priest during the time of Josiah found the book of Deuteronomy in the temple during the reform. So now this source emphasizes the importance of covenant obedience and centralized worship of God in Jerusalem. Lastly, we have the priestly source, which is characterized by its focus on priestly matters such as rituals, laws, and genealogies, and it is believed to have been written during or after the Babylonian exile in 6th century BC. So now the priestly source provides detailed instruction on the construction of the tabernacle, priestly rituals, and the laws governing Israel worship. And in addition to these primary sources, some scholars propose the existence of earlier sources that may have contributed to the Pentateuch's composition. Now, this is where the early source, the fragmentary source, and the supplementary source comes to play. So now let's start with the early source. Hold on, let me put my screen. Okay, the early source or the early hypothesis. It suggests that there may have been an early unified narrative that formed the basis for the J and E source. Now, this early source could have provided the foundational story of Israel's origin and relationship with God. Then we have the fragmentary source or the fragmentary hypothesis. Let's move. The fragmentary hypothesis, on the other hand, proposes that the Pentateuch is composed of numerous small fragments of text that were compiled and edited over time. According to this view, these fragments may have originated from various sources, including oral traditions, written documents, and editorial additions. And lastly, we have the supplementary source or the supplementary hypothesis. Okay, the supplementary hypothesis offers another perspective on the Pentateuch's composition, because this source or this hypothesis suggests that one of the primary source, which is considered to be the J or P source, served as a foundational document which was then supplemented by additional material from other sources. So these supplements could include new narratives, laws, or theological reflection that expanded upon the original documents over time, and these supplements were integrated into the text, contributing to the Pentateuch's final form. So the process of combining these sources involved several stages. Initially, each source was written independently, reflecting the theological and historical perspective of its authors, and these sources were then compiled, possibly through a process of editing and redaction, to form a more comprehensive narrative. And a final editor or group of editors likely compiled the sources into the Pentateuch as we now have it today. So these editors or group of editors made several adjustments and additions in order to make the Pentateuch a unified and authoritative text. So the documentary hypothesis as a whole has played a significant implications for understanding the composition and the interpretation of the Pentateuch, and it also highlights the complexity, and diversity of the Pentateuch's composition, reflecting the contribution of multiple authors and communities, and also helped in challenging the traditional view of Moses as the sole author of the Pentateuch. I think we've come to the end of today's class. We'll move on to the next class. See you next time.